Welcome to my channel, Achino Ogola the lawyer, Karibuni Sana, and today we have one of the young advocates in town, and he's called Njeru Benjamin, and today we're going to be talking about specialization for startup law firms. We're going to explore the advantages and disadvantages of general practice and carving out niche practice for your law firm. So if you enjoyed the video, like, share and subscribe. So, Counsel, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for agreeing to have this discussion. And maybe you could first introduce yourself to the viewers.
As you've heard, my name is Njeru Ben, an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, managing partner at MNW and Advocates LLP, and director at MNW Consultants Limited.
Okay, thank you, Counsel. So, as we've said, today we're going to be talking about specialization in startup law firms.
Sure.
So, first of all, what is your practice involving your law firm? Yes.
Our law firm does general practice with bias towards sports law, conveyancing, and corporate law.
Okay.
Yes.
So, does your law firm employ both the general practice and specialization, or how does your law firm maybe reach out, or what is the character of your law firm generally?
Well, it's hard to describe, so I'd have to say it's a bit of a hybrid between general practice for mostly our short-term and mid-term goals. But as for our long-term goals, we have cut a niche and prepared the infrastructure for going into specialization.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what informed you as a law firm settling on some specific areas of specialization? Because I know that those are some of the issues that young advocates maybe try to consider how they should choose their areas of specialization.
I think at first we were a bit deceived by where people say the money is. For instance, people will tell you that all the money is in, say, tax law, all the money is in corporate law, and maybe they're right. But you find that when you just follow the money, when you just follow the clients, you end up getting lost, because at the end of the day, you have to be giving them value.
Yes.
And the money will come later. So, for instance, I can say that today I'm going to venture into banking law, whereas it is not an interest of mine, it is not an area I've studied a lot on, it is not an area I'm even passionate about, but I'm following it because I hear there's money in banking law.
Yeah.
So I'll end up getting frustrated for no reason, whereas if I followed a passion area, and an area I'm keen in researching on, doing work on, learning about, I'll end up giving clients more value because I'll develop an expertise that my competitors won't be able to match. So we figured that some of the areas in which you're passionate about, for instance, I as a managing partner, I am very passionate about sports law, and it comes from the fact that I interact with the field, with the things I watch, the things I read, and it follows that that would be the area that I would encourage my firm to pursue. Yes. My other partner, Wahinya, is very passionate about fintech laws, and that's all he reads about, that's all he shares. That's the kind of environment he immerses himself in. So it's easy for him to convince us to look into going that way.
Okay.
Yes.
So let me say, do like, for example, having masters in specific area also influence the specific area of law that your firm would specialize?
I think I'd have to partly agree, because a master's is really important, because it shows that you're specialized in that particular area, but more than that is a drive and are willing to learn. Because you might have a master's in sports law and another person is just passionate in sports law, and that passionate person goes ahead and learns a lot about the niche area and actually beats you with your master's. And this is in no way to say that the master's is useless. It is very important, but more than that, you have to have a hunger for knowing what is going on every other time, knowing where is their work, where do we file say a dispute, where do we lodge a complaint, what happens with certain athletes, what happens in the area of doping, what happens in the area of contract disputes, and all of that.
Okay.
Yes.
So basically what you're saying is that generally having a niche practice is advantageous, right?
It is.
So maybe you could talk to us about some of the advantages of having niche practice over general practice, and maybe you could first start by defining also general practice, because maybe some of my viewers won't understand what general practice means.
General practice just means that you do anything and everything that comes to your desk. When you have a matter that is due for litigation, you litigate upon it until its conclusion. When you have a conveyance file, you do it. When you have a running down matter, you do it. You're a general practitioner. You don't really choose. You're not picky with the kinds of files that you're dealing with. A specialized advocate, on the other hand, will very honestly tell you that this is not my area of practice. I may simply refer you to maybe a partner if a law firm has such expertise within the firm, or I may refer you to another law firm which does the kinds of things that you really want me to do. And this comes from the fact that if I'm a specialized practitioner, I'll have a lot of work and I'll have a lot of things to do in my area of practice. So my mind will not really be focused on whatever new thing you've brought in. But being a general practitioner, which is what most of us do, and I won't say that I am averse to general practice because it is the bulk of what comes to the office. You won't always get what you want to do.
Yeah. So maybe some of the advantages, for example, like have you been able to maybe, let me say now, start creating for yourself a name in this field of sports law because you're specializing in that?
Yeah, for sure. My partner is also very passionate about sports law. Mokua Manyara, he sits in the Young Lawyers Committee at the LSK. So the one advantage that we've derived from developing a niche area is that we've developed very important contacts that we wouldn't have were we general practitioners and maybe handled one sports file. So that's important in the long run for purposes that all your files will move smoothly. The second advantage will be that our clientele have identified us as sports lawyers. So you'll find people coming to you with disputes that you didn't even know existed because they've seen what you've been doing elsewhere. And the contacts that I've spoken about earlier have also referred you. So mostly referrals are just your work speaking for you. It just gets files coming to your door as a result.
Okay, and maybe even as an advantage, could you say now that you're able to maybe handle the issues regarding sports law better because you do them more as a firm?
Yes, that's correct, because when you do something, a lot of times you automatically specialize. You become sort of an expert. If I work on a statement of claim 20 times, the 21st time won't be as difficult as the first time. If I'm representing someone at the court for arbitration for sports for the third time, I won't be the same as the person who's representing them for the first time. So,
So also I will want us to talk about now marketing. Do you market your general practice the same way you market your area of niche, or there's a way that you'd speak about now sports law, but general practice you put it at the least, how do you now market,
I think when you're marketing, when you're especially a startup, honestly, you won't have the luxury of starting to only market the expertise that you're known for. You'll have to market the general practice because that's how your firm is known, for instance. So even the big law firms, I don't think they just market what they especially do. They just market themselves as a law firm. And if your work is already speaking for you, I think that's one marketing practice.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think we just market our general practice and market the law firm in its entirety.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's also a notion that you have to have attained some specific years of practice to call yourself an expert. So what will be your comment on that?
Yes, that's why I'm very slow on calling myself an expert at anything.
Yeah.
Because practice really makes perfect, and I may not be on the same level as some of the best sports lawyers we have in Kenya, but we're headed there because we're doing the work and we are putting down roots for what's to come. Yeah, so I think that to call yourself an expert is really something that first of all other people should call you an expert. You're referring to yourself as an expert.
I know advocates like branding themselves as experts, but I think they've been able to, I think we have rather been able to learn that you wait to be called an expert first, okay? Yeah. Then also, now as we are talking about startup law firms, because I think that's the area which most young advocates are venturing into. What will be your advice for someone starting up a law firm? Because someone like me, I have started a law firm. So what would you advise me to focus on as I try to create a niche area and also still try to do general practice?
Well, I think people start the startup law firms for several reasons. And that's maybe a starting point on understanding how best to advise different people, because you might find that one person has just started a law firm out of frustration from previous employment, and therefore I wouldn't say that is a perfect starting point, because if you're starting something to prove a point, maybe to seniors, maybe to an employer who treated you badly, you will not go so far because your goals are not in line with what a successful firm seeks to do. So again, if you're starting a law firm, I think you should have short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals. Short-term obviously should be, sorting out the bills, putting a roof over your heads, everything. The bills, first of all, have to be paid. And that cannot be a driving factor. You cannot wake up every morning because you want to pay rent. That won't work for the long term. So for the long term, you should want to put yourselves out there, be the Anjawalas, be the Triple OKs, be that should be your level. So even when you're starting, I think whether you prefer to be a sole practitioner, whether you prefer to be a partner, you should ensure that the quality around you is to the end that one day you will be the Anjawala, one day you will be the Bowmans. So I think that's one. And two, the advice that I'd give is that when you're starting a law firm, you really dedicate everything you have towards that practice, because the law firm is supported by your brains, the law firm is supported by what you read every day, what you do in court every day, how you handle a client's file. So if you're starting a law firm and in the first year you've already eaten a client's money, well, you can see the future of that law firm. It's really going nowhere. So that's two. Number three is to, especially if you're not well all-rounded, surround yourself with partners who complement your strengths. For example, I am not as good in court as my partner Mokua. I am not as good in conveyancing as my partner Wahinya. But I'm good at other things that they may not probably be as good as. I'm good at selling, I'm good at pitching, I'm good at all of that, and it may not seem very important when you're in court, but to actually have the clients that you go to court for, you need that person to do that for you. If say I'm doing a draft, I may send it to another partner to read, I may send it to another person to read, to motivate me, that to really tell me that what I'm doing is the right thing. And so you'll find that you'll need people who motivate you. For example, I do not like reading judgments and everything, but you know, they're mostly sent to our WhatsApp group, in the firm's WhatsApp group, and I have to read because it has to be a discussion, and two people cannot discuss on your three. So you really have to be acquainted with the latest judgments, say in the SDT, say in the Tax Appeals Tribunal. So again, it boils down to the little things that your firm does initially, who you surround yourself with, some of the soft skills, how you speak to clients, how you fulfill your promises. If you say, I'm going to file this tomorrow, and tomorrow it's not filed, why should your client believe that you will go all out for them with your file? If your client if you set a meeting with your client at 8 and you're there at 8:20, then that says a lot. So again, some of these soft skills may kill a law firm even before it starts.
So you've talked about short-term and long-term goals.
Yes.
So in your firm, how are you able to incorporate those long-term and short-term goals as you still try to maintain the image of the firm?
So I think some of the short-term goals actually should be in tandem with your long-term goals. So say if I'm taking up 20 running down matters, I know that I won't be able to do any sports matter in say the month that I'm doing all those files. So is that really in line with us wanting to cultivate a niche around sports law? No, it isn't. So I think that at the end of the day, when you set up your targets for even a week, when on Sunday or on Monday morning these are the matters you have in court, these are the legal opinions you have to do, these are the files you have to work on in, so far as conveyancing is concerned, these are the things you have to follow up in the registry. So if all of that can be done and still there's time to either do something, no matter how small, for your long-term goals. If there's time for that, then I think you guys are okay.
Okay, so Counsel, how are you able to also deal with competition in the various niche area that you have you are developing for your firm?
I think there'll always be competition.
That's
there. There'll always be competition. You'll never be on your own in a particular field. There'll always be bigger fish. There'll always be equally sized fish. So I think that the best way to deal with competition is to work on yourself, work on your quality. As a certain senior advised us to be reading 10 judgments a day, I think it had something behind it, because if you guarantee a certain quality in your firm, if you guarantee a certain quality to your clients, then it does not matter what your competition is doing, because there's nothing they'll be doing better than you. If it's preparation, if it's execution, they will not be doing it better than you. They may employ a lot of resources, they may have a better history, they may have more cases than you, but at the end of the day, if you can just give the one client you have quality, that client brings another client, and if you replicate the quality, it becomes a revolving door. So I think the best way to deal with competition is to just embrace it. Yes.
Also, does having a specific area of practice give you the advantage to charge more? Because maybe now you're known. I think that's also something maybe outsiders who are non-lawyers also grapple with?
Yes, that is the, I wouldn't say the main advantage, but that's one of the advantages of a specialized firm.
Yeah.
Because then you charge for the quality you offer.
Yeah.
And because you specializing means that you become an expert, and therefore you charge like an expert.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so also talking about the market forces, like how are you able to balance between maybe specializing on, for example, now sports law, looking out for not only, let's say, Kenyan type of matters, but also looking across East Africa or such kind of things?
I think it's an intriguing era we live in. We live in such a global village where you're easily able to network with different kinds of people. You easily know what happens elsewhere. So I believe that's really important, and we try to do it as much as possible. I think, I don't know whether you might have seen my partner Mokua has brought a very famous sports lawyer from Spain.
Wow.
Yes, to Kenya twice for 2 webinars, and I think to look up to such people is an honor, really, because it motivates you. Because if you can sit down and have a discussion with someone who's represented the best paid athletes in the world, then you can see really that the sky is the limit. Yeah. So when you want to specialize, you're not called an expert because you've only dealt with your local matters. You're called an expert because you can be called in other jurisdictions to even have them benchmark, because your expertise is not just known here but elsewhere.
Yes.
Again, since things like sports, things like fintech, they cross-cut. They're not just within our jurisdiction, so you really have to be in tune with what's happening elsewhere. Yeah.
Okay, also on specialization, I think rather let me say, one of the issues that a young lawyer would say is that maybe a specific area is flooded. Therefore, they wouldn't want to specialize in that area. What would be your comment on that?
I mean, if you think that an area is flooded, then it's probably not good for you. Because I think that in every area, we have over 18,000 advocates in Kenya, last I checked.
Yeah.
Most of those advocates are practicing. So it makes sense that they'll practice in one area or another. When we're talking about, say, sports law or fintech law, we're not just thinking that I'm the only lawyer there. There's obviously going to be a lot of lawyers. So it goes back to what we discussed earlier. What kind of quality are you bringing?
Yeah.
You might do running down. Running down may be looked upon as such a simple matter in Kenya, but there are lawyers who are really known for running down. When you think about criminal law, you might think it's saturated, because even if you go to Milimani Criminal, so many advocates there. But if you think about people like Cliff, they're in a saturated market and they still remain at the cream. Yeah. So I just think it's down to the quality again. Yeah.
Yes, I think young advocates will benefit from this discussion, because for sure, as you said, sometimes the motivation maybe is not really the frustrations rather, but of course they need to look at your long-term goals, what you want to be known for as an advocate. So, and I know many like me are trying to open firms, and I think it's a timely discussion that you'll agree not most people who have gone before us actually have this discussion. So maybe what will be your parting shot as regards to specialization for startup law firms?
My parting shot would be this. When you're starting up, it often looks like it's very colorful, very nice. It's it's romanticized a lot.
Yeah.
But when you start, you realize that it's a really difficult world. It's really difficult as a startup lawyer, never having a file, because you have to start with one file. You don't just get in and then there's files
waiting for you.
So how do you convince that first client to trust you when you've never actually handled a matter in your own name? How do you convince a second client that you've only represented one, and they can walk into another law firm where there's like 100 files of the same matter they're pursuing in court or wherever? So I think it's down to what your goals are, because when you believe in something, I don't think anything really can stop you.
Yeah.
And so maybe I just say that when you're starting, just you have to understand that it's not going to be easy, but if you do it right, and if you're patient, and if you're hardworking, and if you believe in offering quality, clients will come, money will come, reputation will come, and the last of that, reputation, that's the most important thing to have, especially as a startup.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for your wise words, Counsel. I really appreciate your time. And my viewers, I hope you're able to learn a thing or two, and also share the knowledge with your friends, and let us all be engaged in doing better for ourselves. So see you in the next video.